Okay, your question has been noted, and I know...
Noted but not answered.
Right.
Good evening. My name is Richard Early, 50 Leisure Way, Coventry. I have written concerns to the town council if they would be interested. The cliff notes are, first, we are all for Mother Nature. It's the money that is the concern. My sewer assessment has gone up 100% in the last 7 years, and this year, for 2016, my sewer assessment is 10 times that of the water. So I think we should have enough money to take care of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, please.
Eric Wilson, 48 Hazard Street. I'm going to just open up two quotes from current members of the town council. I said before, but I'm saying again. In regards to the fire district debacle that happened in this town, June 2015 Providence Journal.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Try to keep it pertaining to the...
This doesn't pertain.
Fire districts, it really doesn't.
Karen McGee, District 3, stated, "It is not the town council's job to save the district from poor management."
Again,
Glenn Shibley, yourself, the council president. The district's own residents voted against giving any more money, so how in the blue blazes would any council give it to them now? It wouldn't be right politically or financially.
All right, thank you.
We didn't get a chance to vote. This applies.
All right, we're going to make it much shorter.
You supported the taxpayers.
Pertaining to the resolution and
You supported the taxpayers.
not fire
You were not supporting
not
them.
fire districts, all right? So, and you've talked to the council a few times, so please continue on.
You can reset that, by the way. Town council made those statements in support of the taxpayers. What happened? All right, now let me cut it off short. Skip that. Why was the assessment fee left out of our initial notice, especially on Hazard Street, where it's so astronomical? Was it the town's intent to complete this project to build the residents after the fact? A surprise $20,000 bill for something I did not vote for something the town council decided to force upon me? I assumed that the state revolving fund was a state account funded by tax money for town projects. Call me naive. Not a state account funded directly by the residents. So who is it that failed to notify the residents properly? Because if I failed in my job, I'd be fired on the spot. We are not there. At the September school committee meeting, I pleaded with the town to adjust the procedure and notify residents months in advance, if not longer. That notice should include the estimated start date for the sewers, the estimated assessment fee, whether it's projected to go up, whether it's projected to go down, the average cost to have a licensed plumber tie you in, as well as loan options. About 3 weeks later, over 4 weeks into when ground broke on Hazard Street, he checked the plug. I received a notice mentioning assessment fee. Still, did not include the assessment fee, clearly, because this is what happened. The blowback. Now, another thing I want to bring up, and I don't know if you're aware, but there's a significant amount of ledge on Hazard Street. The vibrations from those heavy machines from about 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. is constant, non-stop, and intense. Who's going to be responsible if the resident's foundation was damaged? If the structural integrity of their home is compromised? What if the vibrations created lead dust? A lot of those houses are old. I have lead paint in my house that I'm dealing with. What if it created lead dust? You talk about environmental concerns? What about that? In the air, in my house, around my daughter, in the ground, in the groundwater? You're claiming that my system is polluting the world, the ground. I have no proof of that. It passed all tests when I bought my house. It's still functioning to this day. So prove to me how that is polluting the ground. Speaking of lies,
Mr. Wilson, no, this is Mr. Wilson, I
it says
believe.
3 minutes.
It's 3 minutes for the next person. Can you just try to wrap up so the next person can speak, please? Thank you.
And it's been mentioned about the evils of social media at previous town council meetings as well as today. Social media is the only outlet providing residents with information, and we all know who's responsible for that. I checked on that page, what was it called? The Residents Against Mandated Source Facebook page is the one being referred to. It's photos, videos, and documents with the town's letterhead on them. There's no lying, there's no slander, there's no nothing. It's just facts. That's there. So how do you respond to that? Exactly. Oh, and the whole change order debacle from last time too, about no one being, certain people, not being informed about change orders, things being made on the spot to tie into this street or do this, add more funds.
Mr. Wilson, I asked you to wrap it up.
I have a cell phone. I have a cell phone, and we probably all have contact information of each other. You can send a text
We had a
out,
rule at the beginning.
keep people informed that are on the committee, so they can express their opinions in regards to change order.
Okay, thank you
No.
again. Next gentleman.
Hello, Joe Perry, 14 Larchmont Drive, Coventry. I'll make this short and sweet. For me, I don't like the word mandated for anything. Okay, when it comes to my government mandating me to do something, I don't like it. But somebody like me, I have one child. Okay, I'm married. My son is, another year or two he's going to be driving. I have to come up with money for a car. College will be coming up in a few years. But it's not just me. I can probably take the hit. I don't like it. It's a bitter pill that I do not like to swallow. Okay, but it's the people across the street from me who have 3 children who are barely making ends meet to keep their caravans running. Okay, and you're throwing like $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 at them and expecting them to cough up with this money when they have not just one, like me, they have 2 more children that they have to bring through college and pay for, help them get through life, okay? Or it's an elderly person living on the other side of the street who's living on a fixed income, and you're forcing them to, dish out all this extra money. Those are the people that I'm concerned about. My relatives, my friends, my neighbors, okay, that live here in Coventry, and, for this not to be our decision as members of the community, is really unfair, and it's an atrocity. Okay, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dennis Robideau, 21 York Drive, Coventry, Ave. It only costs between $5,000 and $15,000 to put a septic system in. You will not be paying usage for that water every single year. You will not carry on every single year. If I sold my home, I don't think I should have to put $20,000 down and connect to the sewer for somebody to buy my home. This is my town. I'm a taxpayer here. My taxes going up at least $5,000 since I moved here. And I vote every year for my taxes to go up. Now you want to force me to pay this money for something I do not want. That's all I have to say.
On 50 Flower Avenue. You said in your presentation that pretty much nothing has changed from the original plan going back 40 years ago. Well, a lot of things have changed back then. First of all, say the main reason is for pollution around Coyote Lake and the Patuxent River. Pollution in the both water systems are 10 times cleaner than when you first proposed these things. Coyote Lake is trout waters. Patuxent River, these waters are cleaner now than they ever were. So that's not a reason. And in addition to that, you give a presentation and you show the debt that you've incurred for the last 10, 20 years on this sewer system with less than 8%, 10% of the people connected as of this day. And you're dumping that assessment pretty much onto the people all over Arnold Road in District 4 to pay for the debt that you've already incurred. And with the prices that you're mentioning for the cost of the sewer system and your goals of 80% of Coventry, you're talking billions of dollars, well over $1 billion that you're putting on the taxpayers of Coventry without them having a right to vote on it. If that was done legally, I propose that something has to change in this charter and things better be looked at differently. Because you shouldn't be able to make a decision for billions of dollars and put that cost on the taxpayers of Coventry.
Hi, Jennifer Suchuk, 32 Hazard Street in Coventry. I wanted to first address Mr. McGee from the statement that you made earlier when we started. I did request a copy and reviewed the letter that you did send out in 2011 because as an educated homeowner, I remember getting your letter, the survey. I assure you that the decisions that were made then to not proceed with the project, had you proceeded with the project then, Mr. Shibley, you would have seen this kind of response. The reason that you did not was because it never started based on the surveys that everyone had returned. I am confused as to why, when you state that everyone on the council voted and is aware, why Mrs. Carlson and Mrs. Bacon frequently shake their heads no. So I'm wondering, are you all aware every day of the changes that are happening with what's going on with this project? That concerns me that you're still shaking your head no when we are being told sitting right here tonight that you all are aware. That really concerns me. And the information also in that letter did not say that our assessment would be $23,000. It said it would be $12,900, okay? Which is different than the $6,600 that was paid out in Western Coventry. So again, even at that amount, $12,900, people had concerns about it, and now you're talking $20,000 to $29,000. The rate that you offered for your loan back then was 8%, which now is 6%, but still twice what you're paying. So I just have a lot of concerns as to where, even making the motions and all of that. It just seems like things happen quickly, and we have two councilwomen who are sitting and shaking their heads. And I find it very distracting when I'm speaking, when you, Mr. Shibley, continue to just look at the clock.
Representative Patricia A. Serpa, 194 Kimberly Lane in West Warwick, Rhode Island. However, I do represent a section of Coventry that is under consideration for sewers. Mr. Gorham, you asked that we focus tonight on the resolutions, and I'm doing exactly that. Number 2 is specifically problematic to me. I think it's very poorly worded, and I'm wondering, frankly, how this committee is going to gather the socioeconomic demographic information in any area. What is your plan? I think these people have a right to know how you're going to gather that information. Do you have access to the U.S. Census? Are you going to send them a mailer? Because frankly, if I got a mailer from the town of West Warwick asking for my household income, it would end up in the recycling bin. If someone came to my door asking me for my household income, I would say thank you very much, but I'm really not interested in disclosing that to you. So what is your plan to gather that socioeconomic information? How are you going to gather it? And then say under the best of circumstances, you do have a good way of gathering it, and you determine there are 20 houses, I don't know, pick a street, Eleanor Drive, and 6 people on that street make over $150,000 a year, and the others make under 40. So in someone's mind, they will determine that the higher end people can afford the sewers, and the lower end people cannot, when in fact you don't know the entire socioeconomic condition of that family that you consider higher end. So in my humble opinion, number 2 is fully worded. I don't know how you're going to execute it, and if someone could elaborate, I think these people have a right to know that. Thank you.
Leo Rutgers, 2080 New Snake Hill Road. A couple of questions and a couple of comments. I think from the beginning of this whole project about installing sewers in Coventry over the last 40 years has not been well thought out. I think in reality, if these resolutions do pass tonight, that you should form a study commission and start from where this sewer project starts for Coventry, whether it's for today or for the future, from A to Z. I think that has not happened. We don't have a clear, concise of what the total cost of installing sewers in the town of Coventry. Second of all, we've had a lot of comment about there's been large septic systems installed up in Oak Haven. That's not the way to go. Well, individuals spend $15,000 on the average 3-bedroom home to install a brand new septic system if their cesspool or older septic system has failed. I'd like to hear from the installers to tell us the integrity of how long a system lasts. And I believe the average brand new system that is installed today is going to last at least 25 to 30 years. I think we should get that information directly from the installer. So $15,000 times 50, for 50 years, it's 2 systems. It's only going to cost you $30,000 over 50 years. Not a minimum of $32,000 to install the sewers, which makes, the math doesn't make any sense. Number 2, we have DEM here, who could probably answer a lot of the questions that folks might have, that it's not mandatory to install or connect to sewers unless there was a state grant or federal grant. I've only seen one small grant of $209,000, but in this handout, which I think Councilman Carlson had about 20 questions, it states that it's mandated. That's totally false. It's not mandated unless there was a federal grant or a state grant, and that grant should help defray the costs, not add to the cost to the homeowners. Another question is, why is the town charging double? If you're being charged 3% to borrow the money, why isn't it 3%? So I'm asking tonight that in the resolution, we cannot charge not a 1 percentage point or half a percentage point over what the town borrows. So that should be out. I think we should also ask a geologist to come into Coventry and determine really what areas really do need sewers. If we pick a point. I saw a map earlier from a presentation, and there's sewers needed on Coventry Drive, Ada Court. There's another one up on Hazard. There's another one on Ty. It's piecemeal. That's not a well thought out proposition. And lastly, somebody made a comment that we need to keep connecting in order to make this sewer project whole. It reminds me of a Ponzi scheme. That's what it does.
Mike Lowell, 390 Bayview Avenue, and no, not Mike Lowell from the third baseman from the Red Sox. If I had his money, I wouldn't have to worry about sewers. So anyway, my street is not getting sewers right at the moment, but I've been told by the town that I will be eventually getting sewers. My questions are, from my understanding, this has been put before the town as a referendum many times, and it has been voted down by the citizens. Many things that need to be voted on by referendum, such as a new police station or capital improvements to schools, things like that, which cost many millions of dollars, have to go before a town referendum. Why would something like sewers that cost many millions of dollars not go before the town as a referendum? Also, my parents have lived at their house in Situate for 45 years. When they built the house, they put in a septic system, which is still running perfectly fine today.
Aiello, 24 Coventry Drive. I've sent everyone an email on this side. I've heard back from Mr. Bacon, Mr. Carlson, Mr. Waters, appreciate it. Took you a little while, but you did it. Mr. Lewandowski, I checked my spam folder. You haven't responded to me, even though last meeting you said you did. You responded to everybody. That's not true. But whatever. My question is, someone, I think it might have been Mr. Lewandowski here last time, septic systems fail. You said that. Septic systems fail. Now, do sewer systems fail at all? Like the pipes that go in the ground? Because you said they don't. Is that true? Is that true? And my other question, before you cut me off, because I know you will. My other question is, this was supposed to be a question and answering session. Everyone's asked questions. I haven't heard answers. Everyone likes to get it. Thank you.
Next.
My name is Christopher Lopez, 46 Woodbridge Circle. I think the sad reality about this is we all still have septic systems. Mine failed recently 3 months ago. I had to pay $14,000 to get my whole yard ripped up and my system somewhat expanded so that way we could withstand this. If I were to get an assessment added to that, you're talking about people in this room might have systems that are in the process of failing or will eventually fail. You're going to have to put more money into it. I'm saying if I have $15,000 in the tank already, and now you put an assessment upon me of this $20,000 plus, how does that go with the people? How do we afford on top of that if we've already had to address our system while you are in the process of going through all this?
Well, just again, new systems, if they're approved, then it's a 10-year deferral.
That was part of the question I would get to, because my concern would be when I went to the town, all these things had to be filed and documented. No one ever said, wait a second, you know what, if you put $1,000 into your system now, you might be able to get 2 more years out of it. If a 10-year deferment, I'm still going to be paying this for the $20,000 I had to take out of my 401k loan to afford it. I'm still going to be paying that in 10 years.
Excuse me. I thought this was going to be a session where if taxpayers had questions, we were going to provide answers. Okay, I'll tell you what, when you come up, if you have a question, can you wait to see if we can get you an answer? Because this is like public comment at a council meeting where you comment and we don't answer. So give the experts a chance to answer so you get some satisfaction tonight. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, Kevin Snow, 36 Edward Street, Coventry. A couple of my questions that I had were asked by Senator Raptakis and Mr. Lowell. The first being, and we never heard any answers, so if I'm the first one that maybe could get some answers, that'd be great. We're being charged twice the percentage rate that the town is for the sewers. Why? Why? Can somebody answer that?
Stop the clock,
If you listen, bear with us.
The town ordinance says 6% in the ordinance, that's why we charge 6%.
We're being charged double. Sorry, I can't hear you. We're being charged double that you're being charged. Why is that? Doesn't seem very fair to me. It also doesn't seem fair to me that the president of the sewer committee is also an employee of the contractor doing the work. Would anybody like to respond to that?
Sorry, what's the question?
The president of the sewer committee is also employed by Gamma Construction, which is doing the majority of the work.
So what's the question?
It seems like a conflict of interest.
Why is he an employee of the
It seems like it's a conflict of interest. Why is it, am I an idiot? Or, I don't think I am.
I don't think you are.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Is that a conflict of interest?
No, it's not.
That's not a conflict of interest. If I'm talking loud, I'm trying to speak up, so you can.
All sewer contracts go out to bid, and generally it's the lowest bidder, if they do the best work. It doesn't matter who's where.
So
What we like is people, if I can talk, what we like is knowledgeable people on our sewer subcommittee that know what's going on, and we've had good people for years. I always two council people, and out of the 7 members, and we try to get a random selection, 3 residents, individuals that know and volunteer, and it's not, not easy work, and try to come up with a plan and listen to the engineers and take into consideration the needed areas, the DEM and the costs, and the costs only go up. And I remember when it was $6,600 a sewer hookup, and unfortunately it was too low. They came up with that figure, and then it went to 12. I remember when it went up to 12.9 or something, and that was too low.
Was it mandated at that point?
And then I'm not exactly positive, I can't remember, but I think yes, it was. And now it's gone up more, and I thank you for your question. That's some resolutions, we're going to try to look into this.
Mr. President, excuse me, Mr. President, I'd like to say something too. One thing that we're going to do too, a lot of these questions are all with a stenographer as well too.
Right.
And we certainly want to use a lot of those questions to come up with viable answers and a study committee. That's the whole idea. The resolutions that we were looking to stop the project, to reassess how we're going to move forward with this program. And we can do that. That's the whole point of getting questions, etc. Maybe that you can't get an answer directly right now, but and some of them we have, some of them we don't have. But we certainly want to get all of the questions answered, and they'll be on the stenographer's record, and we will all get copies of that question. We have our own. Mrs. Carlson has written out a bunch of them. We've submitted questions of our own, and those are the answers that we need to try to come up with to find solutions to the whole program. But they're not avoiding questions again. It's we want to answer those questions. Is everything going to be immediate? Certainly not. But we'll try to answer what we can, but if we can't do it when everybody's yelling and screaming and then shooting, numerous questions at us at the same time.
And as just stated, that's the whole reason for the 2 resolutions tonight. The town manager has recommended, talk to each council person, and I think we're all in agreement with it. Well, at least that's why we're here tonight, with the resolutions. All right. Next.
Excuse me 1 second, do you mind? No, I just want everyone to be aware, I was not consulted by the town manager or anyone else on the council, and I don't believe Karen Carlson regarding these 2 resolutions. Actually, they've been until today. So I just want everyone to aware, we were not consulted about that at all.
Mr. President, if I may, just to answer the last gentleman's question, he mentioned something about the head of the sewer subcommittee working for dam construction. Glenn Squirker works tirelessly on the sewer subcommittee. He was instrumental in trying to rewrite the sewer ordinance. He is a civil engineer. He has a wealth of knowledge. These bids go out to a competitive bid, and there's no advantage. To say that there's a conflict is absolutely wrong, because it's competitively bid, and there is no advantage to this contractor as far as knowing the price of the bid. The guy has a wealth of knowledge.
Let's hold down the noise. We got a councilman talking. Have some respect.
My first question is to my councilman, Mr. McGee. You did a survey in 2011. What does that have to do with 2017 in our area? There have been numerous new people in my neighborhood off Hazard. Actually, I am new to the area, so I never got up. I can name about 4 or 5 houses that are new. So I don't understand what that survey has to do with today.
I sent a survey out in 2011 because at the time, and it is correct, the survey did state that at the time there was a $12,900 assessment. However, because we knew there was ledge there, it was going to cost much more, and it was going to be a minimum of $23,000. This was back 6, 7 years ago.
So why would you come up that road when you knew it has that much ledge? And it could possibly cost more than that, because if it's digging in one area for
Because
12
our
weeks.
thought process was that we wanted to combine areas such as the Coyote area that had a lot of sand and that was less expensive to do, combine them with the Hazard Street area to keep the cost down, because we knew that the cost was going to be up there in the Hazard Street area. Now, my point is, when we sent out these surveys, unfortunately, 1/5 of the residents that I sent the surveys to did not respond.
But that was in 2011, we're
Okay,
talking
but
2017.
I'm sure there's been some houses that have changed, like yourself. I'm sure there has been some changes as far as ownership of the house. But I handed out a sheet of frequently asked questions, and it talked about the assessments. It talked about the price of the assessments back in 2011. Granted, it's all changed and everything, but to say that you were not aware of assessments, it's just false. I mean,
It is false, because I didn't live in Coventry then.
all right, if there's probably, there may be a few houses, I don't know how many, but there may be a few houses that are new, but if anybody's been there over 5 years.
There is quite a few. My point is, then why don't you send out a new form giving me the real assessments and take a survey
Well,
on
that's
that?
why we have decided to stop the program and send out surveys and get some more feedback and get some, ideas and people, because with all the discontent and
My next question is, why doesn't you put this to an all-day referendum and have the town vote? Not mandate. And my third point is, you're saying this gentleman works for the construction company. How do we know he didn't go in and know the bids and went for a lower bid to get that job? Don't tell me it's not a conflict of interest. This is Rhode Island, and I see how the politics works, because right on this council, you've got 2 women here that didn't know anything about what was going on.
on a competitive bidding process, nobody is privy to the process. They open up the bids at a meeting, nobody knows what the bids are, it is not done.
Okay, next please.
Lisa Knockowitz, 21 Reed Street. Lisa? 21 Reed Street. If we do, or you choose to suspend the program tonight, what happens to the money that's already been spent as far as the general taxpayer is concerned?
So any debt service that cannot be paid by the sewer fund will have to be paid by the general fund. So the council will have to appropriate money from the general fund to cover that.
Do you have a sense for what that may be?
We don't.
Excuse me, there is a person at the mic. There is a person at the mic. Go ahead.
Do you have a general sense for what that repercussion might be?
No, Lisa, what we did is we had a discussion with the gentleman who we worked with when we issued the bonds. And one of the discussions we had is, out of all the possibilities that I mentioned earlier, was refinancing the debt. There's also a possibility that any of the unused funds that we have received that we haven't expended yet, we could possibly return to Rhode Island Clean Water. So there's a variety of options that just go beyond taxing the general fund. When we get into the situation where the fund balance becomes low, then that's another discussion. But for the immediate, right now, we have several options to deal with the money we haven't spent from the 2013 A loan, which is about $1.2 million.
That you have or have not spent?
We have not. That's
Now,
the
my
money.
question was, for the money that has already been spent for Arnold Road South, in particular, I'm assuming that money needs to be starting to be paid back somewhere.
Yes.
And if we're not going to have any assessments, how is that money going to be paid back?
The sewer fund balance can probably cover that expense. We won't know until we have the final audited numbers. But if that's not the case, then we'll consult with the manager and other finance professionals to see what our options are. Most notably would be we can ask to restructure the debt to make the payments lower, so we're not in a position where we're using fund balance.
So is there any, Mr. McGee suggested prior that perhaps it would land on the taxpayers of the town?
Yeah, as I discussed previously, that would be one of many options, but I would consider that an option of last resort.
Okay. And this resolution says suspend temporarily. Do you have any sense for what temporarily means?
Temporary, not permanent. The idea is to, as I stated in my press release, is to have the council take a step back and reevaluate the program to see if there is a better path forward and to take into all the feedback that we've gotten from the residents.
I mean, there are people who are trying to make decisions on, you know, purchases of homes, replacement of septic systems, and so it would just be helpful to know if it's going to be 6 months, a year, whatever it might be.
This is Narcoits. I don't think you have the answer right now. That's why temporarily fits the bill until we find the answer. You can't set a 30 days, 90 days, 50 days, 100 days, because we don't know how long it's going to take to find the answers on it. And then sooner or later, a decision's going to have to be made, whether assessments go out, how long they're going to be paid, whether the town hall picks up the bill, split 50-50. There's a lot of things to consider. And this, again, is not a new thing, sewers. And Arnold Road has been done now, and it's completed. And the bill's going to have to be paid, yes. So that's temporary, I think is a good word. It's not trying to hide anything or avoid
I'm not
anything.
insinuating it.
No, I'm just saying, because some people might think that. Temporarily, we don't know
I'm
the
just
answer.
looking for some sort of...
All right, we don't know the answer, but thank you. Yes, sir, next.
Oh, yes, sir.
Hello.
I take my hat off with a little respect for you.
You're a gentleman, sir.
I live 400 Tyoke Avenue, Tap. You know, I hear about Tyoke a lot because I live on Tyoke. And if my recollection, like 4 or 5 years ago, the DEM inspected the lake, the water quality in Patuxent River. It was good enough, they put trout in there. But now, all of a sudden, our sewers are failing, and you want to put all these new sewer lines in there. And you're going to have an assessment. And I guess, I'm not sure it's based on road frontage or what, but what about the people? I look around here, there's people older than me here, and a lot younger, and I'm on a fixed income. How am I going to afford this?
Well, again, that's what's got to be looked into. I understand Tyoke Lake has gotten better over the years, because again, I've only been around almost 40 years, and I know it wasn't so clean before. And that's a credit to the town and DEM and the Lake Tyoke Association. We've been working diligently to try to keep that lake clean. And then the whole idea of the sewers is to continue to keep it clean. Because, you know, that's a vulnerable area all around the lake. That's my district. That's District 4. I wish they'd come to Oak Haven. Again, I can only say that. But we're not going to see it. We're trying to protect the water. But I appreciate, and that's what we're going to look into. All right, thank you.
Like I said,
go ahead.
I'm wondering, you know, the elderly people here like myself and the young people, how are we going to afford this? When you're on a fixed income. We pay enough fire tax, town tax, insurance on our property. And on top of that, you want to charge us interest. You know, I'm not rich. And
again, I understand what you're saying.
And the younger generation, they're not going to want to come to Coventry.
I understand. Again, I am retired. I don't have a job. My wife's retired. And I understand, and I'm not as old as, let's put it this way,
Jim,
my father-in-law, Mr. Chairman. But I understand the concern. But sewers have to be paid for. They're not free. All right. Well, but thank you.
Still have 3 more seconds. You know, it'd be nice, like I heard a gentleman on Channel 12, that he spent $12,000 for a new system in town located. Now they're saying he's going to have to mandatory tie in there. You know, what's the story with that? I feel bad for that poor guy.
Thank you. Yes.
Karen delivers 49 Reed Avenue. I'll just read something, and my numbers are rough, so if the young lady right there would like to recalculate, you can do so. A 20-year loan at 6% would be $34,389. 34,389 divided by 20 is $17,1945 a year. $17,1945 a year divided by 12 is $143.29 a month. If I had to live on my disability check of $800 a month, how am I going to do that? Can you tell me that? And what about the 93-year-old woman that lives on Coventry Drive, a widow, who we all know, Mr. LeBassinier, cannot afford that?
I understand what
And I'd like to know, Mr. Waters, who looks for grants? Why are there no grants? What's up with that? Grants don't give back.
I don't know why there are any grants left.
Who looks for them?
I've talked to our federal delegation, and there's no federal money available. And I'm guessing.
And who's your
there's no
federal
state-
delegation? If other towns and cities are finding the grants, why are not we?
I'm not aware of other towns and cities.
One of the richest cities or towns is Lincoln. They pay $1,800 for their assessment. Why is that? Why is that?
We can look into that. If there's
You
grants
need to find
available,
more
or if
money.
there's federal
You're
funds
paid for
available.
this position. We elected these people here to work for us. And only 2 of those people up there really care about us.
Hi, Sherry Elderkin, 979 Victory Highway. I'm having a really hard time wrapping my head around how you're doing these sewer assessments. So you're telling me that a 90-year-old woman or man who live in their house that they bought when their children were little, whose now children are all grown, and that house may be a 5-bedroom or a 4-bedroom house, is going to pay the same exact as somebody who is actually utilizing that sewage waste. Is that what I'm understanding? Is that what I'm hearing? I did ask a question.
Yes, the sewer assessments are based on when the line goes by, and the connection is the sewer use.
How is that fair to that 90-year-old woman, or 80-year-old man or woman, whichever, that is living in their family home that they've had all their lives, and that they've grown memories in? You're going to force these people to have to move out of their homes because they will not be able to afford this. I don't understand how that is fair when you have a family of 6 people who may be actually utilizing that sewer, and they're paying the same as that 90-year-old woman. It's not fair to that 90-year-old woman. You need to rethink how you organize that and where you're coming up with these numbers. I think you need to figure out how many people are living in each home and do it accordingly based on who is living there. And when the changes come and new people buy in, then the assessments change. There has to be another way to do this. It is not fair to the elderly and disabled that are at a disadvantage that you guys are taking advantage of.
Thank you. Hi, James Garrison, 8 Nicole Lane. 2 brief points. I won't belabor the sentiment that's been raised here. A lot of good feedback has been given to you already. I was reading a recent housing study, and 2 numbers jumped out at me. The first of which is 30% of homeowners are already stressed financially. A large portion of their income is already going toward housing, which means it's not going to other places like food, clothing, and things like that just to live. It's even higher for renters. It's above 40%. And where do you think these assessments are going to go? The landlords are going to put that into the rent. And they're going to be even more stressed. We have a very stressed financial situation in our community. In 2016, Foreclosures in this town jumped over 100%. A large jump. Things to be aware of. My second point is an interesting one, and this is what made me jump up, because I'm disappointed in the comments from Mr. McGee and Mr. Shibley. I won't say anything more about why I'm disappointed, other than you are not the determiners of what falls under the ethics code. The ethics commission is. And you're doing Mr. Skarka a disservice by telling him he's not in violation. We're going to find out very soon if he is. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Claire Rutledge. I live at 33 Rawlinson Drive in Coventry, Rhode Island. I've been here 3 years. I've lived in Wakefield, Massachusetts. We always voted on everything. I think I'm free. Everybody should be free. I think that people should have sent out letters, not mandate. I just think it's wrong. I just have one question. The septic systems that are in our backyards, who is going to be responsible for taking those out, or can we leave them there? So that's more money. And what about the water bill? Is that going to be increased too? Okay? Those are just some points. I live here. It's a beautiful city, but I'm sad. I'm retired. I have cancer. My husband's retired. I don't know how I'm going to come up with the money. Thank you.
Hi, George Lemastro, 751 Washington Street. And there seems to be financial issues, obviously, environmental issues, and I suppose ethical issues as well. And I'm just trying to help out as far as subcommittees go and this, that, and the other thing. Now, to the engineers, if you can design the septic system, the sewerage lines so that they're environmentally sound, correct? There's a mic right there.
I would assume the answer is yes. Hear the rest of the question.
Okay, well, no, that wasn't the first question. So the second question would be, could you not also engineer a septic system so that it's environmentally sound? And I've been all over this nation, so I already know the answer, but let everybody else know.
So there are...
Can you design a septic system in a given property that's environmentally sound?
So you can design, engineering is such that you can design a solution to virtually any problem.
Not
given
that's the answer.
The right financial
that's the answer.
Investment.
Now, I talked to a gentleman that has 5 family members that lives on the street. And I'm not speaking for myself at the moment, although I'm a member, so. If all 5 of those residences have to dump 20 grand at once, that's $100,000 on his entire family. What are the odds of all 5 septic systems failing at the same time? So that might help make a decision for you, is my point. Anyway. My grandfather, what am I saying? Wise man. He had a saying, don't throw good money after bad. That's it. That should help you make a decision. It's simple. It really is that simple. And then it comes back to the people issue. Well, it's really about people anyway. And that issue would be, I got 46 seconds left, so I can't dance anymore.